Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive book. Today is Monday and that means weekly wrap up here on my channel, so I talk about the 5 books I managed to finish over the weekend. Or not over the weekend, over the last week. So I hope this video is going to be on my normal standards, because actually I filmed like the 4 videos for this week already, like in a bunch. So I did this video and 3 others, and while editing I found out, oh, I've put in the wrong audio input device, and therefore the audio was really crappy and I have to reshoot. So I'm at the beginning of shooting 4 videos I already did again. But the videos are actually not the only thing that was a bit repetitive this week or last week. Some of the books I've read were as well. So let's get into why and how this happened. First off, we've got the Austerity Academy by Lemony Snicket. It's the 5th installment in his series of unfortunate events, and this is actually a positive development, because the first 3 books at least were very repetitive, and the books in itself always follow like the same structure. But this one introduced a plot element at the end that might hint toward like a break from this kind of repetitiveness, at least for a little bit, because we seem to get like a more serial approach. There is at the book at the end something that needs that is like a cliffhanger and that needs closure in one of the next installments, so I'm really looking forward to see how this develops. Another thing I really enjoyed about this book was the humor. I think it was the one that was tailored towards my kind of humor the most so far. Still, the book isn't a book that is like a 5-star or 4-star read for me, but it was like a really enjoyable 3-star read, and so far the strongest of the series. Next off, I have The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Talking about repetitiveness, here is that this is actually a reread for me, because I have tried various times in my life to get started with the Wheel of Time, but I've actually never succeeded in pulling through. So I always got stranded in book 2 at some point, and I think that is like the 4th try now I have for the series, but this time I'm doing buddy reads for the series, and I'm also in a position where I read way more than I did in the past. So a book that is like 800 pages won't take like a month for me to read, more like a week. So I hope this will, work in favor for this series. Having said that, of course, as I already know the book and I wanted to read it as a refresher, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did in the past, or as maybe others do. I had a rather low rating for it already with 3 stars, and if I would only rate like the repetitive experience I had with this read, I might have rated it 2 stars in the end, but I remain with my 3-star rating, because I think that sums it up pretty well. It's a book that I find enjoyable but not spectacular at the moment. I think that series has a lot of potential, because the world building of course is really great. There is like a large cast of characters. And so I really look forward to see how this series will actually develop over 14 books. But the first book, is just a book that I say it's okay, it's likable, but nothing really spectacular. Mostly for me, the beginning is rather slow, and we're staying in the first village where the teenage protagonists come from for quite a while, and in that amount of time other books manage to produce a full story. So the beginning is really slow, and then again within the book we have a lot of repetitiveness. For example, the characters travel from town to town, and in almost every town they end up in an inn, and always the inn is described, and the innkeeper is described, and his wife is described. And it's not only that it is that those things or people are described again and again, they are very often described in the same way, almost like every innkeeper is like a rather fat guy who's jovial and nice and maybe a bit simple, and he always had a wife or has a wife that is very headstrong and screams a bit and but has a heart of gold, and it's like always the same. Why do I have to see like the same default in like explained for 6 times, and the only times the inn and the innkeeper is explained differently is for a plot purpose. So that is something really slow for me. So that's where I think I don't enjoy it maybe as much as a lot of other people seem to do, who give this 5 or 4 stars. Another book I've read this week was Rise of Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. It's the 2nd installment in his Rhaeria Revelations. It's a bind-up of the 3rd and 4th volume in this series. We're still following Hadrian and Royce, but in this volume the serial character of the series really starts to shine, because we don't have like new heists coming up, but everybody is now like involved in the plot. And even though each book has its own like focus and story in itself, we're seeing that there are developments in the series that involve our characters more and more, so we have a more serial character, and I really enjoyed this. And in the middle, so this binder volume, as I said, contains like the 3rd and the 4th book, and with the 4th book the series gets a little bit more serious in tone, maybe a bit darker in the atmosphere, and I also really enjoyed that. And now I'm really interested, because I've just started like the last book, to see how this all ends. Overall I rated like the 3rd book 4 stars and the 4th book 4.5 stars. I ended up giving it overall like a 4 star for the bind-up. And I really enjoyed that, and I think it's a really great series. The next book takes us back to our theme of repetitiveness. It is Zoes Tale by John Scalzi. It's the 4th installment in his Old Man's War series, and according to John Scalzi, the series should have like concluded after the 3rd volume. That was his intention, and so he ended it as a trilogy. But then 2 things happened. Like, people of course liked Old Man's War and the universe and wanted to read more of it, and there were like 2 or 3 plot points in The Last Colony where a lot of readers didn't get the intention that John Scalzi had, and John Scalzi felt he wanted to clarify these points. So what did he do? He wrote Zoes Tale, and Zoe is like the adoptive daughter of the main character of the 1st and the 3rd book, John Parry, and she is now the only perspective in this book, and the book is actually a retelling of the 3rd book, The Last Colony. And that is in itself the issue I have with the book, because not as maybe the normal reader who finished the trilogy at some point when it came out and then maybe waited a few years, and then Zoes Tale came out, and that was all exciting and surprising that it got back to the Old Man's War series. For me, I've read like the third book like 3 weeks before I've read the fourth book, and the story was very vivid in my mind, and so this book had like zero tension, and from the plot nothing new happened. Yeah, there were some kind of explanations, but that could have been done, like, I don't know, in a larger essay by the author or something like that. I didn't think really that the open questions required him writing a whole new book about it. So probably if I would have read the book without prior knowledge of The Last Colony, it might have been a 4-star book, because it is solid Scalzi. It has humor in it, interesting characters, everything I like about him. But yeah, as I said, there was zero tension and you already knew what happened. And this kind of retelling didn't really work for me, so I ended up just giving it 2 stars, because the book was okay, but nothing that I really liked. But to redeem John Scalzi, I've read Fuzzy Nation, which is a standalone by him, and it's actually a retelling again of a short story, but this time I don't know the short story, and we're following Jack Holloway. Jack Holloway is a former lawyer, and now he's a surveyor on a planet, and at the moment where he finds like a great deposit of sunstones, and thinks he has like the deal of his life, something else happens. He is visited by some kind of animals, and now he's not quite sure if these animals might be sentient people or animals, and if they turn out to be like being sentient people, then he and the company he works for might not be able to exploit the planet as they have planned. And so yeah, that leads to some very interesting developments. Of course, with this fuzzies in it, this is a book for animal lovers. He also, the main character also has a dog that is very adorable, so if you fall into that category of reader, you will enjoy this book a lot. Also, with him being a lawyer, and as you might see, there are some legal issues in there to filter out or to actually explore. This has a lot of courtroom drama in the second half, and that is something that doesn't happen really often in science fiction and fantasy books, so that was like a very enjoyable change of pace. And with the humor, the normal ingredients of John Scalzi, like humor and explaining science in an accessible way, yeah, that was a really enjoyable read, and I rated it 4 stars. So that was my wrap up for last week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. If you want to know what's coming up on my channel, please look inside the description box. There's a little segment there called On the Horizon. I wish you a good reading week and hope you get bitten by a really good book too. Bye!